Alrighty, folks. This is Dragon3590 coming at you with another video for my adventures and experiences. Today, I said we would talk about classes, and so we are. Now, I do realize there was some stuff I might have said in the last video that needed to go over, and I will address them in another video. Today, we will be going over nothing but classes. Now, the thing with classes is people say there are some that are dead classes and some that are others that are just, you have to play them. From my experience, I have seen dead classes actually excel at PvP or PvE better than other classes. And this is due to not only gear, but skill. Every class has a skill cap. You need a certain amount of skill to play this class to its peak performance. Now, when I say skill, I don't mean, the amount of skills you have, as we saw in the last video where you had a bunch of skills you could use. When I say skill in this video, I'm talking about your skill at actually controlling your class, getting the skills that you have bought off at the right time, in the right combo, the whole 9 yards. Personal skill. Now, with that being said, this is not a ranking video. This is just a guide on what each class does, where they excel at, where they do not excel at. But I'm not ranking them, because in my opinion, they're all equal. Yeah, some are better at stuff than others. If I'm ranking them on PvE, I would put Guardian at top. She is one of the best ones at grinding right now. PvP, it wouldn't be Guardian. I hate to say that, but it would not be Guardian. But like I said, this isn't a ranking. This is just going over what they do, their play style, and basically describe what you might want in this class. Basically, it's describing what you're looking for in a class. So, with that being further said, let's get started. First off, we got Guardian. She is my main class, and she is so fun for me. Might not, but it's not fun for others. She is one of the hardest hitting classes out right now. She hits like a tank, but she is the slowest one. She is like a tank moving around the battlefield. She's slow, but hits hard. When it comes to grinding, she excels at it. Her awakening, as you can see down here, and I'll show off some of her skills later on in another video. If this one becomes popular, I'll start going through each class itself. Her awakening, you use a big, giant battle axe. It's called a Jordoon in this game. But it's basically a huge great axe or great battle axe. And as such, she uses it accordingly. She swings it around, she slams stuff in the air, she slams it down on the ground. Her attacks create like lava or fire attacks. Now, her pre-awakening, as you can see here, is a sword, or not sword, a shield and an axe. And it fits. It fits her barbarian style of fighting. She's one of those ones that reminds me of a Viking. Big, lumbering. Don't underestimate their slowness, because in a blink of an eye, if you're not careful, they can hit you, and they can hit you hard. What they lack in movement, they make up for in damage. And let me tell you, it's big damage. Now, how is she in PvP? I would say she's probably B tier in PvP. Large scale, yeah, she shines. You stick her in the ball, you get a PA off, which is protective area from witches and witchers, which I'll go over here later on. And her attacks just hit really hard. You have her just go into a big, huge pack, and she decimates if used correctly. Again, personal skill play comes in handy. Now, in 1v1s, not so much. Overall, she's B tier in both large scale and 1v1s added together. If I had to go rating wise on each one, she would be C tier in 1v1s, and I hate to say that as I main her, but her slowness gets the better of her for grabs or any class that can put a slow on her. If they get a slow status effect on her, she is so slow you can't do anything. If she gets grabbed, it's over in 1v1s. That's one of the ways to beat her in large scale as well, but it's harder as she can get out of there with the help of her allies. But that's Guardian. One of the strongest PvE classes, barbarian style fighting, kind of mid-tier player versus player class. Next up, we have Warrior. Now, Warrior is kind of the opposite. Its PvP is phenomenal in 1v1s if mastered correctly. I have seen a Warrior go from standing next to you to instantly being behind you before you can even react. The skill cap on Warrior is super high to master it. To get decent with it, it's mid-tier, is what I would say, depending on what you go. But its style is actually reminiscent of the medieval knights of old. You got a big giant greatsword for awakening that he uses to hit with fairly decent damage overall. But his main weapon is his combos. They flow together so well that by the time you get up, if you actually are able to get up, he's already put in probably 5 to 6 attacks on you. Five to 6 skills that happen so fast you don't even realize it. Now, his pre-awakening is a sword and shield, as you can kind of see when he's using it here. His sword and shield is more, I would say, more buff-based, more I wouldn't say AoE because it's both AoE and focus based on both awakening and pre-awakening. It's in my opinion, it's more lackluster, but it has its uses. It definitely has its more movement. It definitely has its CCs in there, crowd controls. Overall, this is just an amazing class. His defense, as you can block with this class, is by far the best in the game, in my opinion. If you can't get through a warrior's block, he can just stand there all day and allow you to just pound on him. Same with his counterpart, which is the Valkyrie, which I'll talk about later on. He also is a grab class. Now, when I say grab class, I mean he can actually grab you and put you on the ground. All grab classes, when they grab you, you'll end up on the ground itself. Now, with that being said, how is he in PvP? He's phenomenal. How is he in PvE? Mid-tier. He's not the greatest in PvE. This is where I come and say some classes are better than others. Warrior is better at PvP, in my opinion, than Guardian. Warrior can get in, get out, stay protected, deal an amount of damage that most people never thought was possible until more gear was starting to put on him. But when it comes to PvE, it's actually pretty lackluster. He doesn't have, in my opinion, the damage sustain needed until higher levels of AP to be able to compete with anything else. Now, he's able to last longer in areas, which adds a benefit in some areas. But overall, I would say his PvE is high C, low B tier. PvE is low A, high B tier. Now, from here, we have Ranger. I've had so many people tell me Ranger's dead now, it's a dead class, da da da. I beg to differ. This class is one of the definitions of glass cannon. She hits hard, and she hits from range because her pre-awakening is what's used most. Her awakening is more melee based, while her pre-awakening is ranged. Now, the thing I didn't like, and I know some people do like about Ranger, is the combos. What I didn't like is the amount of the way the combos needed to be put off got my fingers twisted together, all that. I thought I was going to have to break my fingers to get these combos off. I know people who love that type of challenge. And of course, if done correctly, you could probably master Tamer. And a mastered, not Tamer, Ranger. A mastered Ranger is downright scary. She can get in there and in 3 skills pretty much, or I wouldn't even say 3 skills. I say probably about 5 seconds. If you are not careful, not only will she get you on your butt, but she will have you dead before you can even react. Ranger PvE is mid tier. It's neither great nor bad. It just is. It's a fairly decent grinder. PvP, I'm sorry. For anybody that says Ranger is not good at PvP, you have not fought a Master Ranger as like I have. A person that has mastered the skill of playing Ranger is downright scary for any class to go up against. I'm sorry. She's one of the fastest classes in the game. She can move around super quick. She doesn't have that much CC, but what she lacks in CC, she makes up for in range and tactics of how to get the combos. Her combos are ridiculously strong. But that is Ranger. Moving on, we have Sorceress. I have had people say this is the most broken class in the game right now because it's the most protected. She has no defense, as you can see in this little corner here, but she makes up for it in iframes. This class, if played correctly, can stay in iframe almost all day long. I have seen a master sorceress take off all of his armor and fight people and not die with no armor on. I mean, one hit and you're dead at this level, and not get hit because of the amount of iframes. Now, I will say the iframe part is a little broken. If you like playing broken classes, you like staying in pretty much invincible, play Sorc, master Sorc. Sorc's Awakening is a scythe-based, Grim Reaper style type attack-based system, but it's her pre-awakening with success, and that's where she, in my opinion, shines. She has so much more CC potential. She has so much more damage output potential in her succession. Her awakening is still good, folks. I'm not dissing her awakening, but when it comes down to it between awakening and succession, in my opinion, succession is going to take it over time. Now, when it comes to PvP, she is by far, in my opinion, the number one 1v1 class, followed closely by Ninja and Kunoichi. When it comes to large scale, she's one of those ones. She's off to the sides, on the outskirts, picking people off. Sometimes getting in there if you know what you're doing and you can master the Sorc well enough. You can actually get into the middle of the fray and actually do some damage. But for someone that is not mastered the Sorc, as I call her, Sorceress, I would not recommend it. Now, when it comes to grinding, she is also one of the top tier grinders just because of her damage output with succession. And I hate to say it, even her awakening is still one of the best. She can grind higher end areas because of her iframes, making it a little better for her to stay alive. Her survivability is a lot better. She does, if you're not careful and you don't know what you're doing, you can suffer from stamina loss and having no stamina. So if you do go to Sorc, watch out for that. Next, we have Lawn. Lawn 1v1 is also top tier. In Awakening, she has a ranged grab that is, in my opinion, broken because it is ranged. She's the only class that has it. But that is because her Awakening is 2 swords on a chain. Basically, think of God of War. I can't think of any. That's basically her weapons. 2 swords on a chain. She's the female Kratos in Awakening. She doesn't hit as hard as some classes, but she still hits hard. She still does decent damage. Her grab is really good. She's the only class in the game that can fly. And you heard me correctly, yes. If you press shift space, it will take you in flight mode, where you just glide over everything for a short time and then land. It's not the longest glide ever, folks, so don't expect to be able to glide across the map. It's not happening. Her succession, when it first came out, was extremely broken. It was protected every skill with a super armor, maybe 1 or 2 frontal guards. You could not CC her. She was literally an invincible class. You could not touch her unless she made a mistake. They nerfed that a little while ago. Her succession is still really strong, still does a lot of damage. She is still a amazing PvPer. She does pretty well in large scale. She does phenomenal in 1v1s. When it comes to grinding, she does very well, just because of the amount of area effect and CC and all that. On to Berserker. Berserker, as you can see, is our giant class. He's that big, huge, brawler-looking class. You know, if you want to play a big-looking class that looks just like a brawler and feels like a brawler, giant Berserker here guy is the one to go for. In main, when you first get him, you wield 2 giant battle axes. 1 in each hand. You hop, as you can see there, he's hopping around like a mad dog, just ripping peep through the mobs. When it comes to grinding, he's one of the top, in my opinion, one of the top in grinders. Not super high up there, but definitely not mid tier. I say he's in between mid and high tier, mid and top tier. When he gets awakened at level 56, he gets a big giant cannon on his right arm that gives him range, but also destructibility, which increases his grinding and PvE even more. His succession goes back to the 2 double axes. His succession grinding's decent. For me, playstyle wise, I'd stick to Awakening, just because giant cannon. You get to shoot stuff. You literally become Mega Man with a giant cannon. He does more brawler-like attacks with the cannon, where he just hits you with it. When it comes to PvP, he's the only class with 3 grabs. And yes, I said that correctly. 3 grabs. Now, there is a CC limit, which I'll go over later in another video about actual PvP, that you have to be careful of as Zerker. Now, Zerker can get around the battlefield very quickly. Even with his big size, he's not slow. He's actually fairly fast. If you are not careful, he's one of those ones you think he's slow, and next thing you know, he's right there up in your face. When it comes to 1v1s, I say he's, again, between top and mid gear or tier. I would not put him at the top, but I definitely would not put him at mid. He is one of those ones, once you've mastered, he is a force to be reckoned with. If you want a good one to watch, go to watch Choice, go watch Stratified on Twitch. You can just go any day pretty much into the BDO the Black Desert section on Twitch, and one of them or someone of their caliber will be playing. So overall, he is a great class. He's fun to play. Eventually, I will probably gear him. Tamer, one of the least played classes in the game, and so underrated. And I know I'm going to get a lot of slack for this in the comments. Please don't kill me. Tamer 1v1 is, I would say, is probably right up there with Sorc and Ninja and Konoichi, and able to just go toe to toe with them. Her the reason for her pet is the reason for this. She summons a Chinese dog. Is pretty much what it is. It's a big, giant, fluffy dog, which is not showing really in here. But the dog's name is Helang. It's pretty much just a big, giant Chinese lion slash dog that just ignores super armors, just CCs through almost everything. Really hard to get a hold of her in 1v1s. When it comes to large scale, that's a different matter. You have to be staying on the outside or do guerrilla attacks with her, as that's the only thing she excels at. When it comes to grinding, I would say mid-tier, but like I said, I've never actually played Tamer to its fullest. I never really got far into it. I don't even have a Tamer created anymore, just because it's not my playstyle. Her playstyle is get in, do damage, get out in PvP. In PvE, as you can tell, she does pretty decent damage. Her awakening is a short sword that she uses along with its sheath to just smack people, along with Helang. And then in awakening, she uses a bow staff. She literally becomes a bow staff princess, is what we call her. In Korea, she is age 18. In America, for some reason, she is still age 16. So if you like playing kids or little girls, go ahead. You will be the butt of a lot of jokes if you do play her, but if you can master her, it won't matter. She is deadly. Next up is Shy. She is the only support class in the game. True support class. Her attacks are pretty lackluster when it comes to PvP. She's not very good at 1v1s. When it comes to group, you literally are the ones that buff up the rest of the group, protect them, heal them, more so than even the Witch and the Wizard. This is the class that is true support in large-scale battles. Right now, you can actually make music in the game that the Shy can play, which a lot of people are having fun right now. Her talent, which is what it shows here, is the little ball, which you cannot see on her right now. You can kind of see hanging from her belt right here. It's called a Valkyrie. It's basically what she uses to buff everybody and all that. When it comes to grinding, though, she's almost at the top. She has one of the best survivability grinds, sustain grinds in the game, just because of the amount of hits that boomerang she uses right there does. And there's a couple of skills that pretty much everybody just uses on her when grinding that just keeps heals up almost every time just using that boomerang. So when it comes to high-end grind spots, if you have the gear, I mean, you will outgrind. You won't outgrind because she's not the fastest getting from pack to pack, but you will last longer. Your endurance grind will be better in the long run than, say, a warrior, a sorceress, or even a guardian. Next up, we got Striker. I main Striker for 2 years. If you love martial arts, Striker and Mystic right here, which I'll get to, are two of the top martial arts class. They are the martial arts class. You literally go up, you strike people with your fist, your leg, your knee, you name it, it's probably been used. Striker and Awakening gets clones that come out and help him. Those clones are phenomenal when it comes to damage against players and mobs, making him very decent at grinding. Very, very good at 1v1s and large-scale battles. A mastered Striker is a force to be reckoned with. His attacks are phenomenal. Now, one thing to know that we call this the Ook Ook class. And I will say this because he is an ape. When he gets in there, he does amount of damage, but he is throwing his weight around just like an ape would. His attacks look like they're long-armed attacks, just like an ape's, the whole 9 yards. He is the Ook Ook class. But don't let that Ook Ook class do a leg drop on you, which when I go through, if you guys want, the leg drop is a skill where he literally flips in the air and drops his leg on the ground with ankle and leg hitting. He is phenomenal at grinding. He is phenomenal. Well, I wouldn't say phenomenal at grinding. He is definitely high tier at grinding now after some buffs. He didn't used to be, but after buffs, I would say he can pretty much hold his own with the right gear setup and all that, and some of the higher end areas. When it comes to PvP, 1v1s and large scale, he excels. If you have the right setup and 1v1s, grab them, do the right combo. They aren't going to be able to get up from it. In large scale, you're going to go in, you're going to just lay out damage. That's all you do. Don't worry about trying to stay safe. Most of your skills, if you rotate your super armors correctly, which all of them do phenomenal damage if used correctly in Awakening, are ridiculous in damage. And you will stay protected, and most of the time, even if you do die, the amount of damage you put out will let someone else in your group deal the final blow in the long run. Now, its Succession that just came out this year is really fun. I prefer it over Awakening. Awakening has more damage. Succession just flows a lot better. I feel that Awakening is more clunky when it comes to the actual combos, but when it comes to Succession, everything just like flows just right. It actually feels like I'm an actual true martial artist. It's faster. It doesn't have the same amount of CCs, but it has, in my opinion, a little better reliable CCs, but you do lose a grab. So you only get one grab instead of two. Something to be thought of. Just for the sake of it, I'll go ahead and talk about Mystic. Mystic is the female version. Instead of clones, she gets a water dragon as what she uses in Awakening. When it comes to Awakening, we call suck skills because some of her skills will actually suck you into one area. It's like a big vortex. She is one of the top grinding classes just because of her CC and somewhat damage output towards monsters. She's just able to sustain herself longer and all that in PvE and PvP. Awakening is, if you master her, she is phenomenal at 1v1. She is phenomenal at large scale. I would say pretty much with her is the same thing with Striker, except in large scale, your main purpose with her is to be laying down more CC, as she does do less damage than Striker does. So if you want to be a female martial artist, she's the one to go for. Next up, we have Musa. Musa is what we call one of the Zoop Zoop classes. In Pre-Awakening, you get basically a katana and a bow that you will use to go around and do damage. Its Succession is more PvP based in my opinion, but still not as good as what Awakening can do. Awakening, you get a big giant crescent spear that is used like a glaive. And as you can see, it's fire based. And it hurts. If used correctly, a Musa can SA trade, super armor trade, most classes and get away with it with either the win or a good chunk of damage output. He's one of the quickest from getting to mob, making him one of the better grinders. His damage output while grinding, along with his AoE attacks, make him really good early on grinding. But when it comes to more in-game grinding, Meiwa takes the lead. He is not the best when it comes to in-game. I don't care what people say. His damage output comes less and less the higher end it goes when it comes to PvE. Now PvP, that's a different story. The higher your AP becomes, the more damage you're going to output against players. Would I say he would be best for like Star's End or Secure Ruins or something like that? That's pretty much in-game grinding? Not so much. When it comes to like Ackman or uh, maybe trees with a group, yes, he's actually fairly good. But Meiwa here, and we'll go ahead and Meiwa, takes over that. She is more focus based, as you can see in her attacks here with her Kara Spear. It's basically a spear that she uses as a spear. We call her the Poke Poke Zoom class. Again, just like Musa, she zips to and fro mobs. Her attacks are more focus based, so they do not have as big of an AoE. They still have a cone effect, so they still do damage, but that cone effect is what makes her a whole lot better at high end grinding, at like Secure Ruins, at Star's End, even Histria, and even in Miramok Ruins, trees. When it comes to PvP, people say she's bad. I have seen a master of the class destroy people who underestimated her. She's one of the other underestimated classes in the game. Do not let people tell you she is not good. She is good. Next up, we have the Valkyrie, warrior's counterpart. The Valkyrie is a holy warrior. So she does holy based attacks like a Sword of Judgment, which drops a sword out of the sky, the whole 9 yards. That is in her awakening and pre-awakening. She does all kinds of like holy based attacks. Her awakening is a sword and shield as warrior, but her shield is more of a buckler instead of a shield. It's way smaller and just fits like on the forearm, where she can dual wield, or where she can two-hand grip, not dual wield, but two-hand grip her sword. In awakening, she becomes basically a lancer. She gets a big, giant, great shield and a ginormous lance. People have underestimated this class since they nerfed her movement a while back. This class damage never got nerfed, folks. Just her movement. Now, here in a little bit, all the classes are getting damage nerf, but when it comes down to it, it's more for balancing options. She will still, in my opinion, hit like a rocket just got shot into you. Her movement was nerfed, but when it comes to short burst movement, watch out. This class is fast. And she hits. Her protection is like Warriors, phenomenal, making her great frontline in large scale. And her 1v1, if mastered, is still really good. Her grind is way better than Warriors. She does a lot more AoE effects. She's just faster grinder, a little bit more damage output. I would put her above Warrior in grinding in PvE. So if you want to play a female warrior base that just hits like a missile just shot out from a plane, from a like an F-15 or something like that, she works. Next up, we have Konoichi. This is one of our assassin classes. We have 2 of them, Konoichi and Ninja. There's people that say we have others. I disagree. Konoichi starts off with a short sword. Her offhand is a kunai. And I say kunai over shuriken because with kunai, she has a skill where she can actually block incoming attacks when she's in her pre-awakening form. She can also block it with her chakram, which is her awakening weapon. As you can see, it's just one big, giant, round, hula hoop-like blade. And she swings it around. She uses it to really get in there and do some nasty damage. Ninja and Konoichi are the burst damage classes. Konoichi is more CC based. She has more control and crowd controls than Ninja does. But do not underestimate her power when it comes to actually fighting her. A really good Konoichi will make you regret ever facing them. When it comes to large scale, she performs very well as a class that will go invisible and go behind enemy lines and do guerrilla tactic attacks, cause disruption inside the enemy's base. That is their role as a scout and a flex team, a team that will go in on the sides and stuff like that. a harasser, basically. 1v1, again, do not underestimate her. She is more large scale than Ninja is, but her 1v1 is still really good. Her grinding, in my opinion, is better than Ninja's in Awakening. Her Succession, in my opinion, not so much, but I don't play Kuno. I've played Ninja. That is my preferred class for the Assassins of the ones I've played. And I've played pretty much every class in this game. And when it came down to it, I preferred Ninja over Kuno when it came to just overall gameplay. That was me, though. Konoichi is still a lot of fun. Do not diss her yet. Give her a try, see what you think. She's still pretty good at pretty much everything in her own right. I would say mid-tier grinding, high-tier PvP. Next up, we have Ninja. He's high-tier PvP, mid-tier grinding again, lower than Konoichi, but still good grinder. I wouldn't say any class is low-tier grinding at all. The only class I would say that was low tier would have been Ninja, but out of all of them, he still grinds fairly well with Succession. Succession made up for that. Awakening, not so much. When you awaken, you have 6 katanas that you use in your skills. He has way more protected movement in Awakening, but the damage output in Succession cannot be ignored. When it comes to damage output versus protection, Succession takes it over. Protection, Awakening. Again, he starts with a short sword, but his preferred offhand is a shuriken, which he throws with good accuracy. Again, large scale, same as Konoichi, so I'm not going to re-go over that. PvP, he's a little bit slower, but he is still fairly decent at grinding. Next up, we have Dark Knight. Dark Knight is really good. A very fun class. I've had a blast playing her, and I've still plan on playing her. She is a knight that uses a Kriegmesser for an offhand, which is German for giant knife. It's basically just one big giant curved blade that she uses to do phenomenal damage. She has iframes kind of like a Sorc, but not as good as a Sorc's, but still not one to be ignored. This class, if not fought against properly, will destroy you. Her Succession is more PvP focused, in my opinion, where her Awakening is definitely more grind focused. Her Awakening, you get what's called a Vedient, where it's basically a glove, and you dark magic summon 2 swords that you use magic to destroy mobs with. At higher AP is when she fully starts to shine. And I have seen it, and I have been on the receiving end of it, and it is scary. When it comes to large scale, her Succession does work, but her Awakening is better for the range it does with its damage output at higher end AP. She is still one of the squishiest classes in the game, so you have to learn how to master her movement, master her iframes and her super armors, and keep staying protected and out of the enemy's reach. When it comes to grinding, she is high mid tier with her Awakening, maybe low high tier, depending on your AP. Succession, I would say, is more PvP based, but you can still PvE on her fairly well. Don't misjudge it. Next up, we have Wizard. Wizard and Witch. These 2 classes are, in my opinion, brain dead grinding, but they are still a lot of fun. Wizard Awakening is fire and water. As you see here, his pre-awakening is a staff. His attack is phenomenal. His damage output is phenomenal at high end. And in large-scale PvP, where he shines and why every guild that PvPs wants at least 1 or more wizards is the PA. PA is protected area. When you cast it, you are literally protected from pretty much all damage for like 10 seconds. I think it's now dropped down to 8 seconds from a nerf, but still is phenomenal at a whole guild engaging another guild. You get the upper hand. They also can still get in, even though they are used as a PA bot, they are still able to get into the middle of the fray from the outskirts and literally drop nukes onto the enemy in Awakening. Their succession is still really good. It's a lot faster casting than before. It has a little bit more CC capabilities than Awakening does, making it a little bit better for 1v1s, but this is not a 1v1 class, folks. This is a large-scale fighting class. Now, when people say that Wizards can 1v1, yes, if you've mastered the class to the point that you know what you're doing. PvE, phenomenal. You have AoE galore and Succession and Awakening. He's one of the best. He's definitely up there in the high tier in grinding. Not as high as Witch, which is a lot higher because her damage output to monsters is definitely more. But he is still a really good grinder. Up next, we have the Witch, who is phenomenal again at grinding. Same as Wizard. Witch Wizard, pretty much the same thing. There is no difference except that in Awakening, Witch is electric and earth-based magic. So you can summon lightning from the sky and create a big giant earth golem to roll into your enemy. PvP is still the same. Grinding is still the same. Except a little bit more damage output, in my opinion, from the Witch. Next up, and last, but definitely not least, as Cal and Pearl Abyss always bring in more classes, is Archer. Archer is the true ranged class of this game, and as such, he is a full glass cannon. He is the perfect term for glass cannon. You get caught, you will die. His protection is fairly decent if you know what you're doing. He's a kiter. He kites around. He moves in and out quicker than most people would have thought when he first came out. When he first came out, he was the only class that started with an awakening weapon instead of getting it at level 56. His weapon is a arm-based crossbow and a longbow or great bow. Mastered, he is phenomenal. His damage output is ridiculous. He can get in there, he can CC you and knock you down, the whole 9 yards. Large scale, he's one of the ones, he stays outside the actual fight, shooting in, CCing people, and laying down range damage. When it comes to 1v1s, if played correctly, he is really good. He gives a lot of people a lot of trouble because he's just in, out, in, out. Grab classes are the only ones that pretty much give him trouble besides some other classes that can keep up with him, like Musa and Meiwa. Other than that, he is still really hard hitting. And for that's why he is a lot of fun. If you like playing range, and you like not being like in the face of the enemy, you kind of want to be back and still be able to kill 1v1 / large scale, he is the one to go in there and do that. So with that, that is the end of what I think the classes are, how they work, my opinion on them. And again, my friends, this is all my opinion. This is not, oh, well, he said this must be true. No, this is my opinion. Others will say differently. I'm not saying what I'm saying is the truth, or not the truth, but, the exact what it is. There is different thoughts on each class. That was my take on them for their PvP, their PvE, and their playstyle. If you want to know more, you just get in the game, start messing around on them. Choose the class you want to play because that is phenomenal. Don't be like me, which I'm a reroll god. I've spent so much money on this game just re-rolling from class to class to class instead of just picking one and staying with it. Play the classes, find the one that you like, stick with it, gear it up, level it up, have fun first and foremost with the game. And I hope to see you guys in the game, having fun. This is Dragon, signing out. See you next video when I talk about CC and PvP.